Hey, welcome to the All49ers show. That's Jose Sanchez. I'm Grant Cohn. We're the All49ers. Fan Nation, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. It's a mouthful, but that's the correct terminology. Today, we're going to do what I like to do is sort of compare the Niners to their rivals right before the season starts, since the rosters are essentially set. Although the Niners are going to get rid of Jimmy and make like 7 moves after that. But for now, the rosters are essentially set. We're going to get to that part. There's some business we want to take care of first. First of all, this report that the Seahawks are not interested in trading for Baker Mayfield. It may not seem like a 49ers topic, but it is, Jose. Because to me, if a team isn't trading for Baker Mayfield in his 20s and at about $19 million for 1 year, what team is going to be in the market to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo in his 30s at $27 million a year other than Cleveland?
Team in the XFL when they open up soon. That's the team. That's the only team. I mean, come on, everyone's already set with their teams anyways. If that's perfectly put. If no one's going to trade for Baker Mayfield, who's about roughly $9-10 million cheaper, has a better arm and a little more upside and a little more mobility, and no one's going to go for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it's kind of funny because they're both battling shoulder injuries from this offseason. I don't know if Baker got a surgery, but I know they're both battling shoulder injuries. It's already set. We're already in almost nearing mid-July already. This is why every time like Kyle and Lynch sort of says, well, unless we trade him, like trade him to who? When someone, the once in a blue moon injury at quarterback, when's the last time that happened for our team in training camp? Teddy Bridgewater? I mean, right. I can't think of anything else. And at that point, you're pretty much just fingers crossed that someone gets injured. So no, there's no way no one's going to acquire you guys. Everyone, all the teams in the league are pretty much, they're not dummies. They have a semblance of an idea like, hey, they're better off just cutting him, especially the Niners, because they know like that's way too much money. You're not going to go through the season. You're going to cut him, and then we'll wait to see if we can pick him up. And then the same thing with the Browns. They're going to have to probably eat it because there's no way in heck they're going to be able to run Baker back.
Okay, I'm trying to play this out in my mind. You're right. So, okay, if no one's going to trade for Baker, no one's going to trade for Jimmy. But if the Niners cut Jimmy, maybe someone signs him, and they don't want that. So, as you put it, they're sort of in like fingers crossed mode. Someone might get hurt. Deshaun Watson might get suspended for the year. If he might not, but if Watson gets suspended for the entire year, all of a sudden Cleveland might make that trade. Maybe he only gets suspended for part of the year, and then Cleveland's out. Someone could get injured in training camp. Real quick, if Watson doesn't get suspended for the year, Cleveland doesn't do this deal with Jimmy. Do you think it's possible that the Niners hold on to Jimmy into camp just to wait for that possible outcome of another quarterback getting injured in practice or preseason?
That, or also, at that point, I think I think I'm definitely lean that way because they've been stood firm about what they're going to do with him. And as much as Shanahan said, like, I'd expect him to come training camp. No, I think they're going to put him on a vacation again. Like, you can go away, just stay away from us because there's no way in hell you can keep him on your roster. Just don't bring him to practice. That's a different thing. That's two different things. So to me, I think they could carry him into training camp and just wait for hopefully not that injury because, God, that kind of sucks that you're praying for that injury. But also maybe something that some teams realize, like, God, we have a very underwhelming position here.
Right.
But still, even in the case of Jimmy Garoppolo, teams also notice that how they're gonna be able to take on that salary. How many salary cap teams who have that availability for his contract specifically are going to be able to make that move at that point? Then the Niners are going to have to eat like a good portion of his contract. And at that, again, and then you move on to that next point. Wouldn't you be better off cutting him? Is it really worth getting that, that 4th, 5th round pick you're going to get for him? No.
Here's what I think the Niners are going to do. I have no idea what's going to happen with Watson. If he's suspended for the year, they could trade him to Cleveland probably. If not, I think what they're going to do is, like you said, excuse him from camp or make him come to camp. If they excuse him, whatever. But I think what will happen is they're going to hold on until the trade deadline. And so what they could do is say, look, you're the backup quarterback. We're going to slash your salary. No one's going to pay you any more than X on the market. We'll give you X plus $2 million. And maybe they'll save some money. But they're going to hold on probably and wait, because if no one gets hurt in training camp or preseason, someone will get hurt in the regular season. Not that you have to pray for it. It's just football. So maybe they'll feel like, we've held on this long. We have no intention of using this cap space anyway. Let's take it till the very, very end, which is the trade deadline. And if you don't trade him then, they'll be like, we have a great backup quarterback.
Yeah, I think if they did that, God, I'd be so against it. That'd be pretty crazy. Let's just keep the former incumbent starter in the backup behind Trey Lance and not let things get weird. Not unless you do the same thing and just keep him on a layaway type, which again that's also weird. I think carrying him to training camp, and when people realize he's not tradable, the 49ers aren't willing to eat a portion of his contract, that he's just gonna get cut. I mean, it's the same thing with Baker Mayfield. I know Baker Mayfield is fully guaranteed, but hey, the team already indicated how much of a toxic player, and they really don't like him. Like, that's over. There's no going back. No one's gonna trade for him, and he's gonna have to get cut. That's like the reality that's probably gonna happen here. And versus Garoppolo, it's just now you have like a very tedious, a very awkward situation with Trey Lance. I just don't see how that's gonna work. Now, the reason why I think the 49ers can use that salary cap if they cut him when training camp's almost done, they realize there's really no trade market for this guy, is now you have some cap space to sign other maybe veteran free agents that are out there at positions that have underwhelmed. Like maybe they're like, hey, Talanoa is not up to speed like we like. We some preseason games he looked off and he really like tapered down towards the end. Let's sign like a veteran free agent that's available that we can just get $4 million to. Or maybe we don't like Jake Brendel as much. Let's go call JC Treader. And then who knows? Maybe then you could go for a midseason trade yourself because now you have that cap space to take on someone who does have a contract that you can absorb. So I think that's where the options are going to lay for them.
I have a feeling I'm going to be making a video that is, it's October 6th, 2022, and Jimmy Garoppolo is still on this team. I have a feeling this is going to drag out forever and ever because the Niners, they like to say, they don't want to lie publicly. They want to be the team that keeps it real as much as possible. And they've said over and over again, we're not going to cut him. He's too good to cut. We want to trade him, but if we can't trade him, then we got the cap space. We'd love to keep him on our team. They've said that. Now they could find a way to do an about face and be like, we were just kidding. That's hard. That'll be tough to do after numerous times saying we're not going to cut this guy. So they could just, I don't know if they'll bring him to camp, but they could keep him, slash the salary, keep him longer, and then try to trade him at the deadline. And if they don't, just say, hey, we got two quarterbacks like last year. I think it's insane. I think it's a mistake. It's going to split. It could split the locker room, probably will split the locker room, but I think they're going to be like, we have a strong locker room. Kyle's great. We can handle it. Whew. We'll see.
I feel confident that they'll be fine too, but then again, is it really worth that? All those variables you got going on in there, like God forbid, there's like a stretch of games where Trey Lance goes through that quote unquote rookie hiccups, and then and all of a sudden the team sees that, hey, he's kind of part of the reason why we're losing. Like, come on, let's go with the guy who we've proven to win with.
Exactly.
That
could happen fast. That could happen after one game. You know what I mean? Whereas Jimmy Garoppolo he started off pretty rough last year, but I don't think Trey Lance would get that leash if Jimmy's his backup. All right, next question. Just commit to
Trey already by cutting Jimmy. Jeez, not that hard.
Yeah. They should have done that months ago. How good does Trey Lance have to be for the Niners to be successful this year?
Well, we know the floor is Garoppolo from last year, right? So, I mean, how much worse can you get from there? That was like borderline average play from a quarterback last year, and I think it was funny. Someone quote tweeted when you said Garoppolo, someone said just better than this, and it's just a low light reel of all his picks, and I'm just like, what was this guy Garoppolo thinking? They weren't just like impressive interceptions. They were literally just like he threw it to the defender who acted as a wide receiver. It was just like,
and that's what training camp was like for him too when he threw 11 picks. I never understood how he won that.
That's just nuts to me. But yeah, I'd say that's the floor, but ultimately he's going to need to be a little bit more than that because they're going to lose Deebo Samuel most likely in that same role that they had him as the wide back position. And it wasn't until they put him in that wide back position that the offense suddenly started clicking. Everything started clicking. Garoppolo wasn't so much of a tear down liability, and they were able to mask a lot of what they did with him, and then Mitchell as a side support for the runner. But if that's going to be true, what they're going to, make him more of an exclusive wide receiver, whether it's reduced or just 100% gone, then all right, let's get some more out of our quarterback position. Doesn't have to be a lot more, and I don't even think he needs to try so much more because automatically his traits make him a better quarterback. He should, because he could be on the move. He does have that arm. You suddenly don't have to stick to the script of with Garoppolo, who has to throw behind the limit or behind the line of scrimmage or 5 yards just in front of the line of scrimmage. You have someone who can do more of the 5+ yards, 10+ yards, so on and so forth, and get them on the move. So there's a lot more versatility here, and I think just a little bit more better. And I think he'll have no problem being a little bit better than Garoppolo at worst.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Niners have shown more than any team in the league that they can work around their quarterback. They're not a quarterback-driven team. Their quarterback was their weakest link last year on offense. So if Trey Lance is struggling, they'll probably have to they have the option of putting Deebo Samuel back there. If the season's slipping away and he still has, the competitive fire that he had last year, they have things they can do to make Trey Lance's job easy. Plus, they have a great defense. So I still say he just has to be like a little bit better than Jimmy, who to me is Jared Goff with a more defined jawline. So it's not, to me, it's a very low bar, but I do think what Lance has to be, for the Niners to be successful, Lance has to be way better than Jimmy at protecting himself. That's a big one because Jimmy gets hurt a lot. And up until this last year, he would miss time. He did play through a couple injuries last year. That was new. If Trey gets hurt and they have to play Nate Sudfeld or Jimmy Garoppolo still on the team and he comes back, it would be really, really messy and bad. So I think what he has to do is really protect himself very well. He didn't do that last year, particularly well. And he's got, he's got Jake Brendel and Aaron Banks. So we'll see. We'll see.
Oh God, that's not really what you want. But I think the thing to get excited about with Trey is just because it's like we talked about last week or whatever show 2 weeks ago, the new home run player. And I think that's where the really where that slight edge at least is going to take over. And I'd even go further. It's more going to be a slight edge. I think it's going to be a sizable gap, at least a good enough, a nice leap, where it's going to be great to maybe not denigrate, but to someone that's going downfield all of a sudden, because not only is like, are you making yourself a little better by putting Trey Lance in, who has those physical traits, but he should be able to make other players better. All of a sudden, give them those opportunities that we're going to foreshadow a little bit of who benefits more. Like, fundamentally, you can use the deep passing ability for the offense, and so I can only imagine what Shanahan's thinking. Like, God, now I don't have to have because Shanahan had to do so much just to get looks on offense to work, because the defense kept predicting so much that, hey, here comes the run. And because he had to keep hiding Garoppolo. Now it's going to be different because he won't have to, he probably still will go through all those moving parts on offense, but it doesn't have to be so much of a constraint on him.
But let's come back to the durability for a second last year, because the Niners were horrible with Trey Lance in this respect last year. Last year, they had him playing. He should have been the starting quarterback last year. And if he was, he wouldn't have been playing with the backup starting offensive line. He might have been playing in the preseason at all, but he was. He was playing deep into that game against the Raiders with the backups, and he broke his finger. He broke the index finger on his throwing hand. It's a huge injury, and it affected him all year. It affected him so much that when Jimmy got hurt a month later and Trey had to make an emergency spot start, they played him like he was Tim Tebow because he couldn't throw well. He couldn't throw his best. And so playing him like Tim Tebow led to a knee injury that lingered for a long time. So one led to another. The Niners really have to make sure that they protect him. He has to make sure he protects himself, or this season will be a freaking disaster. Freaking disaster. They'll have a losing record. It'll be Nate Sudfeld out there.
Yeah, you can't run that offense.
The ball for grabs.
You can't run that panic offense or that conservative, cautious, scared offense if you're Shanahan. That's literally the only way I can see the 49ers failing him, like I wrote the other week. That's literally the only way the 49ers can fail Lance. If you run those same offenses, and I know, great, one was an emergency throw into the fire because Garoppolo suddenly said he couldn't play, and then the other one was on the road against, at that time, one of the best teams in the NFL on the road. You just can't run that offense. Now he's got plenty of time. He's been a year under. You got to give him OTAs. You're giving him training camp. You're giving him another preseason. You run it normally. Don't be scared. Run with him. You got to take chances to get that development going for him.
That being said, I'd be scared in the preseason. I know he needs reps and stuff because you didn't give him reps last year, but don't get him hurt in the preseason again. Kyle, don't get him hurt in practice. Don't get him hurt in the preseason. That's your job because you are totally in control of that. You're not in control of him getting hurt in regular season. That's football. But he doesn't have to play that much in the regular season, in preseason. Now, if you have a quarterback competition, someone could get hurt. Don't do that. I'm just saying, partially on Kyle too.
We'll probably get like 5 total series the whole preseason.
Yeah, come on, it's your starting quarterback. What do you really need to see more in preseason? He's just going to get hurt. Really what you need to see in preseason is which offensive lineman can block, and you don't need Trey Lance in the pocket while you're doing that experiment. All right. Who benefits most from Trey Lance starting?
Yeah, this one, a little sneak peek to article I'm gonna write this week. There's plenty of a handful of players you can choose from, which I'm gonna list them. But I think the one who I'm really thinking about, who I thought about it last minute, I think I'm gonna go with Elijah Mitchell, who benefits the most. And I know it's like a running back. Why not a wide receiver? Any of the wide receivers, like a George Kittle, who's that's someone who's suddenly gonna start looking like a great player again. Now he has a player who can throw it to him. But I couldn't help but think about Elijah Mitchell because what happened during those playoff runs? You thought about the Packers game, they couldn't run the ball. Thought about the Rams game, they couldn't run the ball. In other high pivotal games, in high stakes games, pivotal games, when teams really want to bring it to you and everything's on the line, it's running the ball is most likely not going to be as efficient or efficient at all. And that's exactly what happened against the Packers and against the Rams. And you can only think about it. Imagine if you're Elijah Mitchell, man, if I had a quarterback who could strike fear, not even strike fear, just so the defense could somewhat respect, not even just respect, just somewhat respect, to suddenly loosen up a little bit on the tight boxes, or at least get them thinking this might be a throw. Because as long as you get a player thinking on defense and they're supposed to be playing on natural instinct, that's good. You're going to get a second hesitation from them depending on what play you call. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, the quarterback, the guy could not throw to save his life. A lot of that game, especially the Rams game, was on him, and they just couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So if you have Trey Lance out there who can actually threaten deep, who can actually, maybe he's going to play action, bounce it outside, tuck it deep, or run it for himself. Who knows? Defenses are going to have to be a little bit more keep in mind of what's going on versus Garoppolo. We already know where he's going to throw it. Across the middle. Let him throw it to the sides. He's not throwing it deep. Let's just bottle it up and keep Elijah Mitchell from going. So I feel like Elijah Mitchell is really going to be like, thank you, Trey Lance. I can finally get not as many loaded boxes, maybe more open lanes.
Yeah, he could have 5.5 yards a carry this year. He could have 1,400 yards. I mean, he could go crazy. That's a good call. I got two more people to add to this. Debo. A lot of people say Ayuk, maybe, but
I like
Debo
more too.
But because Debo's the best player on the team, and he's not going to have to play running back anymore or as much. I think he may want certain carries outside the red zone, when it's time to score touchdowns, but he's not going to have to really play running back anymore. And you're going to see the full skill set that he has at wide receiver that couldn't be shown with Jimmy Garoppolo there. You're going to see him catch, because when Trey Lance was there and playing and Kyle would call shots, it was to Debo, not Ayuk.
Texans play.
Yeah, Debo was the one with 4.4 speed. And so I think you're going to see a different, more complete Debo. That'll be big. And then I got one more. Not a player. Kyle Shanahan. This is big because Kyle, ever since the Robert Griffin experience, has been all about, just give me a quarterback who executes what I say and gets the ball out on time. And so he has Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think we've seen from Kyle is, he's a very good play caller at times. But, man, he can mess it up at the end of the year in the fourth quarter. And he really would benefit from a quarterback who can extend a play and make something out of nothing, because he hasn't had that in a long time. And he has had some epic failures at the end of seasons. And maybe when it's time for Kyle to choke in the fourth quarter with the 10-point lead in the NFC Championship game or Super Bowl, Trey Lance can be like, you know what, I got you. Because that was Andy Reid's reputation forever, that he good regular season coach, get him in a big game, he'll crumble. And he did a lot. And then he got Patrick Mahomes, and he still crumbles sometimes, but he did win. He did win that Super Bowl because Kyle didn't have Patrick Mahomes. So I'm thinking Trey's going to really help Kyle. Yeah.
Yep. And that's what they say. Like, get the player who can build off script. And that's something you're going to hope Trey Lance does. Maybe not at first, but again, like you said, that when the game really becomes like crunch time, like a real crunch time, like the same way, like I just said, like when the games are high stakes and the teams are going to overload the box to blow up the run, that's where also, Trey Lance can help Shanahan in the same way. It's like, hey, Kyle, you don't have to always run it all the time, bro. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to be scared of me.
Right.
Put the ball in my hands. I'll take care of you. You take care of me. And if it blows up, I'll figure something out. So that's something. Yeah, that Kyle Shanahan was definitely on my mind too. Someone who will wait for the players, because now it's like I said, like in the last segment, he doesn't have to feel so
perfect
to mix all these pieces around for the formation just to get the look that he wants. Sometimes he could just do a couple of things and it'll be good.
Like with Jimmy, he had to be perfect. It's like I got to make sure that Jimmy can get the ball out of his hands in 2.5 seconds. Because if I'm wrong and the guy isn't open and Jimmy has to extend a play, something bad's going to happen. I mean, he'll panic, we'll panic. The defense will be licking their chops, advantage them. But with Lance, if if Kyle isn't perfect on that one call, they don't get the look they want. If Trey reads it incorrectly and he holds the ball for 3, 4, 5 seconds, something good could happen. I mean, the defense could panic. That's whenever I watch Russell Wilson, and I see a lot of Russell Wilson and Trey Lance. He wasn't perfect, but if he had the ball in his hands a long time, that's like the worst thing that could possibly happen for the other team. And you're almost rooting for him to take the quick throw. So I feel like that's going to be a whole new element for this team, for Kyle in particular.
I think that's where the thing that Kyle's just going to benefit for is he's going to finally be able to utilize a quarterback on the move a lot. I mean, Aaron Rodgers with LaFleur, all of a sudden you saw, and that's the same system LaFleur came from Shanahan, and that's something they got away from last 2 years, really. So I think
Jimmy nixed it. I think he's like, hey, you want to trade me? You want me to look my best? Let me do what I want to do, which is stand still in the pocket, in the gun, like we did in New England, and just throw a bunch of short passes. That's what he wants to do. It's like, all right, man, but that's not what I want to do. That's not my offense. Yeah. Go be Derek Carr's backup in Vegas if that's what you want to do.
No, your Deebo Samuel one too was that. I think when I had Mitchell number 1, I put Deebo number 2.
Honorary mention.
Now Deebo suddenly it makes it more feasible for the Niners to be like, okay, you want to be exclusive wide receiver? Cool, because we had to put you wide back because we didn't have a quarterback who could utilize your assets. Suddenly we got Trey Lance here, and we already saw what you could do in that Texans play. It was that one play is all we needed to see. The Seahawks play. They did the Seahawks play too the second half.
Look at how Cooper Kupp's production exploded when he went from playing with Jared Goff to playing with Matthew Stafford. So I mean, we don't know how Trey Lance is going to distribute targets, but if I were him, I would target Deebo even more. Like he got 20% of the targets last year. He should get 25. It's Deebo freaking Samuel. I don't want to curse yet because we're going to use some of these in our articles this week. It's Deebo freaking Samuel. What are you doing? Like, stop getting cute, Jimmy. Feed your best player. That's what Stafford did with Kupp. They won a Super Bowl. Deebo is so good that if he gets 25% of the targets this year, in a 17-game season, he could go for 2,000 yards receiving. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. We shall. All right. Give me a player facing a make or break season on the 49ers.
Oh, make him break. That's the easiest one. Mike McGlinchey. McGlinchey, keep harping on him. It's so easy to pick on him. But it's true. You know, he missed the season, torn quad, final year of his deal he's entering right now. He needs to salvage something, not even just to get re-signed by the foreign, just for the league. Because if he's average or even flames out, are we looking at best a rotational offensive lineman for next year, next 2 years? That's probably what's going to happen. He's going to have to end up probably being a Tom Compton reclamation project, where he's going to have to be rotational, slide in, and then show he can be starting caliber, then bring his value back up. But that's the one who you really got to, it's make it or break it. It's, because if he's not that good this upcoming season, you're the 49ers, you're really going to extend that? Do we really want to give this guy adequate money to protect our young quarterback? They really need him. Honestly, the 49ers really need him to pan out. So now he doesn't need to make it for himself. The 49ers need him to pan out, because that's the last thing you want, is to start looking for another offensive lineman player. You've already, for like every year of the last 2-3 years now, the 49ers have been looking for a key offensive lineman. Started with Staley. They lucked out with Trent Williams. Now you're looking at center again for 2 years in a row with Alex Mack retired. And then if you lose right tackle at McGlinchey, you can even argue Laken Tomlinson degree, but guard's a little bit more easier to find a plug-and-play player. But those are the three key to me, the tackles and the centers. So you're going to go for 3 straight seasons looking for key players. So for God's sakes, please, McGlinchey, just be solid, a little more, like almost above average. And as long as you can hold your own pass player and not be that player who gives up the clutch play, you'll be looking great for a nice payout by the 49ers, or at least someone. But hopefully it is the 49ers take their own, because they really need to hold on to that tackle play.
Yeah, he's coming off a really serious injury, and he's in a lame duck year. They haven't extended him. Everyone's like, oh, you got to extend Deebo, you got to extend Bosa. No one's like, you got to extend McGlinchey. Oh. I mean, he's got to show something. It's his 5th year. They picked up his 5th-year option. He's going to be one of the more expensive players in the team this year. And, I never thought he was great before he went down. He's better than certain right tackles in the league. Whoever the Raiders have. Who's that dude the Raiders have from Alabama? A right tackle?
Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah, he's trash.
Yeah, he's bad.
McGlinchey is better than Leatherwood. But I mean, he was serviceable. And his problem was in 2020, he got ran over. In 2021, he came in bigger and didn't get run over as much. But I thought he lost a lot of what made him good as a run blocker, a lot of his mobility. That was gone. And all of a sudden, when he went down and Tom Compton came in, their run game took off because Compton was anyway. Yeah, McGlinchey's a big one. There's also a real obvious one on defense that I don't really want to say. Can you do it for me, please?
Javon Kinlaw?
Yeah, I mean, you want to take that?
Javon Kinlaw. I mean, hey, look, I was the one who wrote it. The player facing the most
obvious.
pressure on defense was Kinlaw, and it's because, look, when you're a top 10, excuse me, top 15 pick, 13 overall, 14 overall, 13, whatever, like that, top 15 pick.
Yeah.
And in the wake of the DeForest Buckner trade, and I remember that was like, God, this guy is forever going to be compared no matter what. It doesn't matter.
And that's not his fault. But that's the reality. The Niners' fault. Yeah.
And like, I still remember us texting when that trade happened because I had the article already pre-written out that it might have been Kinlaw and saying like, good player who has a high ceiling, still raw, but man, a little bit knee concerns. And I think the biggest concern to me is that he has to step into DeForest Buckner's situation because now you're trading him and he's been completely far. Yeah. Now there's no excuses. Look, you seem healthy, great. You don't have DJ Jones to cover up anymore. It's time for him to step up. Fingers crossed, first of all, just good bill of health. And I think at this point, the Niners will just be happy with this is a guy who is healthy week in and week out and is just solid. You know, maybe not even worth the necessary like top 20 pick, top 15 pick. That's like, you know, at that point, you really want him to be a game breaker, a game wrecking player. But as long as he makes this as a few impact plays a game, just someone who's solid, who can be there, stuff the run, and like maybe a couple of pass rushing plays here, you're solid. You'll take that. All of a sudden, it feels like it's a win after the early hand he's been dealt with. Just pretty much he's been gone. He hasn't been there, and it sucks. But now if you get him healthy, you get him there, impact player, boom! All of a sudden, you're looking for an extension for the future.
Yes, but I mean, the reason that he's under so much pressure this season is, again, he has to convince them to pick up the 5th-year option.
Yeah.
I mean, that's on the table, right? He hasn't locked that in yet.
I think that's warranted on the health, basically. I think that's why if he just shows health, I think that's what they'll like.
He's got to be good and durable.
Be solid player, just as long as like, okay, he was healthy, when we saw improvement in his gameplay throughout the year. And then
I mean, forget an extension. There's a possibility they don't pick up the 5th-year option. Like that's a lot of pressure.
I think they'll pick it up because they don't want to make themselves look stupid for the Buckner trade again. You know, they
didn't pick up Solomon Thomas.
You didn't pick it up, but again, that's only if he's healthy. It's only if it's healthy and decent. Right. I'm not
saying he won't. He'll have a break it. I'm not saying he won't come through, but if you really think about all the pressure on Javon Kinlaw's shoulders right now, it's a lot. It's a ton. It might be the most on the team, although McGlinchey's in the running too. Josephus West the third. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm also the third.
That's right. All right, let's move on. Who is a player primed to have a breakout season on the 49ers?
I'm going to go with Emmanuel Mosley. Okay. I like him being because he doesn't get enough respect as a very, very good cornerback too. He wouldn't be any team's cornerback one, but I feel like practically almost every team around the league will take him as their cornerback too. And the reason why I think he's primed to have a breakout season. Look, he's been in the game for a while now. He's been getting better every year. He's been very solid. And now this year, he's not going to be the best corner on the team. He has players behind him who could supplant him. You know, Ambry Thomas was a starter last year for a time. Jason Verrett is back. And so whether they kick him into nickel or not, I don't think that's what he wants. I don't think he'll complain if they want to move them, but I don't think that's best for him, for his career. You stay outside. That's your moneymaker. You know, stay where it works well for you. And I think that's where that's where he's gonna really like make his stand. It's like, look, I got people behind me that are gonna push for me. And I think the number one thing that's gonna stop him is his health, because he always misses like 3 to 4 games every year, it feels like.
Yeah, so he missed 6 games last year.
Yeah. So I think barring health, if he just keeps forget health, I think if he gets hurt like the 10th game and he was like pretty strong, pretty stout in coverage for those first 8 to 9 games, then I think the Niners would give him his spot back. Unless it's Verrett and Verrett's like really like anchoring it down, then that's going to be tough to argue. But I think he's really looking primed for it. The guy's just well in coverage. He does well as both zone and man. I mean, he does not like he gets like dusted hella bad. He's pretty well disciplined. I mean, even in 2020, I remember the COVID year, I think he was guarding Devontae Adams, and Adams beat him, but that was just a phenomenal throw and catch, and his coverage was actually good. So his coverage has been good for a while. I just think now he needs to put it together with his health, and then suddenly people will start recognizing him as a really good corner.
I mean, I'm looking at his stats last year. It's always tough to verify coverage stats, but Sys Data Hub is free. You can check it out yourself. They had him 38 targets, 38 targets, 18 completions last year. That's 47%. That's excellent. 232 yards allowed, 10 pass breakups, 1 pick, 0 touchdowns allowed. That's a really good year. And the way I remember what he did was they started him off playing a lot of press coverage. It didn't go super well. He wasn't giving up big plays, but he was committing pass interference penalties. They backed him off a little bit, and he gave up no big plays after that. If you went deep on Mosley, it was a mistake. And he would give up some catches in front of him. And I thought, I'd like him to be a little bit more aggressive on third down. I thought both he and Ambry Thomas were just kind of soft on third down, which is why the third down defense wasn't great. But yeah, Mosley, if he can play a little bit more aggressive than he did last year, he has lockdown potential and just be healthy. That's a good one.
The off coverage might also be something that they're instructing him to a lot of times. It could be just like, no, we want you to play off coverage. And it might be like a stubborn thing. Maybe just like, we don't care. We stay true to our roots, even though the better sense might be just to get up on you and just play press. But I think a lot of times people don't realize that, like, hey, the corners don't have autonomy or decision. Maybe the stars like Jalen Ramsey, like, hey, we'll let him do what he wants. But like someone like Moses, like you could tell him to go up.
That's true. No, he has to earn that confidence in D'Amico because it seems like he lost it last year. D'Amico wanted to do what he's probably going to do with Charvarius Ward with Mosley last year, and Mosley was getting flagged, so he's going to have to not do that this year. Another guy on offense, I feel like a lot of people would look to Ayuk, and that would have been my answer before OTAs and minicamp. But frankly, I felt he was the biggest disappointment of minicamp and OTAs on offense. Debo wasn't there. Kittle wasn't there. It was his time to shine, and he didn't. When the ball went to him, more times than not, something bad happened. It was just a few practices in May and June, but I just thought he was going to dominate. Who dominated was Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings was the guy who asserted himself, who looked like a different player, who caught a bunch of touchdown passes, and I think he's a very good fit. He has something in the wide receiver room that no one else has that I think is going to benefit Lance. It's just that size and those hands. Lance needs a guy like that because Lance
running.
Yeah, he gets open. He's big and he has a big catch radius. Lance throws really hard. It's not the most catchable ball. No problem for Jawan Jennings. And Debo has a defined role. I don't know what Ayuk's role is. He was in the doghouse for half of the year. Then he came back and played well. Now he's got a new quarterback and he's got Danny Gray behind him, who's a lot faster than him. I don't know. Look, I'd like to see Ayuk tear it up in training camp. Then I'll change my mind. But right now, the guy who looks like he's going to have a breakout year and catch a bunch of touchdown passes is Jennings.
He even surprised Charvarius Ward. Charvarius Ward, the way I kind of read
hold on.
Was he? No way.
Instant reaction. Baker Mayfield going to Carolina.
Is he really? Is he really? Were you at Rap?
Can you confirm it?
Yeah. The Panthers are acquiring former number all pick Baker Mayfield from the Browns for a 2024 conditional 5th round draft pick. Deal is all parties split the financials, so they're eating half of his contract. They're eating $9 million.
Browns are paying half the money and getting what in return?
Conditional 5th round draft pick for 2024. 2024. Not even for next year. 2 years ahead.
And they had to pay half of it. Okay. All right. Okay. So if the Browns had to pay about $9 million to get a conditional 5th in 2 years for Baker, what is Jimmy worth?
They're not paying. They're going to eat $13 million. They might as well just took the injury hit.
Right, because it's like the Browns would have cut Baker. The Browns would have cut Baker if his contract wasn't guaranteed. It is guaranteed, so they had to do this. The Niners don't have to pay to get rid of him. They can just cut him. Like, it seems like what they would have to do is pay for half of Jimmy's salary, and then you might get a 5th round pick in 2 or 3 years. Don't do that. Just cut him. But this does open the door for the Browns to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo if Watson gets suspended for the entire year. Because now Baker's gone.
What, they're going to give him that conditional 5th round 2024 pick? Here you go. We got it for free. Here you go.
Who we got from Carolina? Niners looking at that conditional pick like, oh, wow.
I mean, not the 8.5. I mean, how is that going to work? I saw you had the Browns guy on our sister station, on our sister network, Pete Smith. he said because they can trading Garoppolo is cool because his contract isn't guaranteed. But it's like, yeah, you acquire him though. Like you're not going to cut him mid-season, are you? Like what?
They said they would cut. He said they would cut Garoppolo immediately. What his whole thing was, the Browns just need to get rid of Baker Mayfield.
Baker, right? Just trade Baker. Yeah, exactly. But now that Baker's gone, there's no point. Why I don't get why you traded because now you're going to put $36 million on your cap. I mean, I don't know exactly what their cap is right now, but I know they gave Deshaun $2 million this year because they pretty much.
Well, if he's suspended for the whole year, he's nothing. He doesn't get paid this year. But yeah, I mean, you got Brissett, you got $9 million of Baker's on your team, and then Jimmy coming in at $27 million. It's very expensive. Now that team is a very good team, and maybe they feel like it's worth it to have another quarterback. But yeah, it seems to me like, look, again, if it ain't Cleveland, it's no one. Carolina's out.
That was the team he was attached to most.
So it could be Houston, but I never understood Houston. They're not a win now team. Davis Mills is better than Jimmy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Davis Mills is enough to invest in as well.
If Seattle wasn't going to trade for Baker, they're not going to trade for Jimmy. So again, it's Cleveland or bust. That's what we've learned. Carolina's out, and maybe Cleveland will send that conditional fifth in 2024 that they just got for Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe, but we'll see. It all depends on how long Watson is suspended for.
See if anything else got added to this.
Yeah, Bay Area baller saying
Jacoby Brissett is now the Browns' solution for a Deshaun Watson absent. Well, yeah, no duh. He's the only quarterback behind him.
Say it again.
Well, Rappaport just added to it that, yeah, exactly what he said. But it's like, yeah, no duh. He's the only quarterback available. What else are you supposed to say?
Well, hold on. Jimmy's available. And what's really interesting is a week ago, Julian Edelman went on that podcast, trashed Jimmy, compared him to Brissett, and it seemed like totally random, right? Well, Cleveland has a decision to make. Stick with Brissett or go with Jimmy. Trade for Jimmy. And if they wanted former teammates' opinion, I think they got it. Martellus Bennett and Julian Edelman, I think, would say stick with Brissett, which is crazy because I don't even dislike Jimmy that much. Like I think Jimmy's better than Jacoby Brissett. I have to say.
Wait. Look at this. The Browns will pay Baker Mayfield $10.5 million this season. So not even half, more than that. Which means they trimmed over $8 million in cash and salary cap space. The Panthers will pay Mayfield $5 million. They're going to pay him $5 million. They're starting quarterback. But Mayfield apparently agreed to trim $3.5 million off his current contract. So what if he was 18 flat? They're pretty much like what he got, like he was being paid $14.5 million. That makes sense. Oh wait, no, that means he's getting paid. Okay. Well, either way, the point is the Browns are paying 10.5 for Mayfield, while the Panthers are paying $5 million. So they're paying double what the Panthers are paying for him. They paid $10.5 million just to get a conditional fifth round pick for 2024. But again, the point is for them, because that just shows you how much disdain they had for Mayfield. They just wanted to get him off, that they were willing to eat a ton more of his contract and just get something. Just get him off our books. Just get him off this team. That's the reason why I thought they were going to be so adamant in cutting him when they couldn't realize that, hey, we can't get a trade, because the only way they're going to get a trade was doing something like this. That's the only way they could have done it, is eating a majority of his contract.
I think it's a good move for Carolina, actually. He's a lot better than Sam Darnold. But coming back to the Niners, if Rappaport's correct that Brissett is the answer in Cleveland, then the Niners need to cut Jimmy Garoppolo today. Although they won't. They'll just hold on and on and on. But there is no team that's going to – that means that Cleveland's not going to trade for him either. That's what Rappaport's hearing. Not going to happen. So I'm not sure exactly what the Niners are waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for someone to get hurt during the season. Could be.
I mean, what if you're the Browns? How's that going to look? Like, hey, we just traded. They're probably better off just waiting. I mean, if the 49ers are most likely going to have to cut Garoppolo, and then let's say that's probably end of training camp. If that is going to be the case, the Browns probably would look for entertaining a trade, because do they really want to risk losing about a month plus of time? They can already just get him into the building of learning the playbook, getting out there, throwing with his guys. That's really like going to be the only way.
I feel like you got to call the Browns bluff on this, man. You have a really good team. You know, Pittsburgh has a new quarterback over there. The Ravens are kind of in flux. Yeah, the Bengals are really good, but the Browns should win that division. And to just throw, I mean, you have a running game and a great defense. You can't, I mean, they might feel like they can't just put the whole season in the hands of Jacoby Brissett. I wouldn't do that.
Okay, how much would the Niners have to eat now if we just saw that the 49ers, the Browns had to eat 10.5 of his contract versus the Panthers are paying him 5 now. So, but then remember, the Baker said he agreed to a $3.5 million base salary pay cut. So he trimmed down about $3.5 million of his salary. Would Garoppolo do that? So Garoppolo would have to be like, hey, let me just cut this down. And then the Niners eat what?
I don't think so because I don't think they'd have to because it's not guaranteed money. They could trade him to Cleveland and Cleveland could renegotiate whatever. His money isn't guaranteed. Cleveland could trade for him and cut him. Trade for him and slash his salary. I don't know that the Niners would have to pick up any of the money because it's not guaranteed.
Right. Okay, then I guess at that point they would have to barter a deal like, hey, look, Cleveland, we got Jimmy here. He doesn't have guaranteed dollars. All power to you. You guys got to work out a restructure with each other. That'd be the only way then. That'd be the only way. Then what's Jimmy going to settle for? I mean, Jimmy at that point, we have to say yes to anything. The Browns might say, here's a year, $6.5 million. Jimmy better say yes. Right. That's the best way to really up his value for next year.
But like, again, I think what we learned is that the Niners aren't going to get anything of value for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they're probably not even going to get a 5th round pick in 2024. It'll probably be like a late 6th round pick in 2024, or like a pick swap. I'll give you my 6th round pick, you give me your 6th round pick, and you can have Jimmy Garoppolo on the side and a brand new car. Yeah, they're not going to get a damn thing for Jimmy Garoppolo. If you thought they might get a 2nd or more for Jimmy, I don't think so. Unless I'm missing something here, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be microscopic what they get for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's going to be a box non-existent. It's going to be a can of Pepsi. Hi, Grant. My name is pronounced Josephus. My bad. No worries. My name gets butchered all the time. Just cut Jimmy at this point. There is no market for him. I wish there was, but I don't see it. It ain't Carolina. And according to Rappaport, it ain't Cleveland either, which means it ain't nothing. It's not a nair nutta. Keith Murphy says, I think Jimmy is better than Brissett as well, but Jacoby makes $3 million while Jimmy 25. He's not $22 million better, in my opinion. That's a good point. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the only way it's gonna work. I mean, just, you know what? I've been saying the whole time, just cut him. But I think the 49ers, it's part of an image thing as well for the 49ers, an image, especially the fact that they triple down and keep saying like, oh, we got to trade him, all this stuff like that. So they don't want to look bad.
Official BNA Music 88 says that Baker-Robbie Anderson fight going to be wild. I didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
He publicly was like, don't.
No, Robbie said he was going to retire. Robbie said he's going to retire.
Yeah, who cares? Robbie Anderson isn't even that good. Who cares? Also, Carolina isn't going anywhere. Like, who cares? Panthers got Baker, says Tristan McDaniel. What does this mean for Jimmy? Yeah, we were just talking about that. I think to wrap it up, it means that Carolina ain't trading for him. Cleveland seems like the last destination, and Rappaport just said they're going to go with Brissett. Now, maybe the Niners need to call their bluff on that and be like, all right, well, let's go through training camp and see how that goes. You know, I mean, so that's something you can say on July 6th, but on September 6th, is that something you're really going to say with your chest? Our quarterback is Kobe.
It'd be pro at that point.
Kobe Brissett. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I just feel like Jimmy's going to be on this team indefinitely. Part of me is a little frustrated. Part of me is a little excited.
I mean, that really was the only place that was really available because, you know, Matt Rule, Baker could probably Matt Rule. Matt Rule's not the offense coordinator. That's
I think it's a good move for them.
No, it's a good move for sure because anyone's better than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is cheeks. He's terrible.
So they get a big upgraded quarterback, a guy who's a number 1 pick, and they don't have to pay him. They pay him like what, $9 million? Not bad. Way better than trading for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Just throw it to McCaffrey all day if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Which if he's healthy.
Sorry. Okay. Let's do what we said we were going to do. We could talk about Baker a little bit later, but I think that's enough Baker. Let's compare the Niners to their division rivals position by position. And when I say position by position, I'm trying to make it even. 3 on offense, 3 on defense. Defense is D-line, linebackers, DBs. And when I say D-line, if you're an edge rusher, you're D-line. I don't care. I don't care if you're 3-4, whatever outside, you're D-line, in my opinion. So that's how we're going to do that. And then on offense, we're going to do O-line, skill position players, and quarterback. So it's 3 and 3. And then we'll attempt to do special teams, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know how scientific that'll be. You good? Start
Sounds
off
good.
with the Niners versus the Seahawks, which seems like a laugher, but until you remember that the Seahawks have owned the Niners for a better part of a decade and beat them twice last year. Twice, Jose! And they were trash. They couldn't beat anyone, but they beat the Niners twice. Let's go through it, starting on offense. Quarterback, who's superior? Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld, or Geno Smith and Drew Lock?
Trey Lance. Trey Lance is such...
Yeah.
Drew freaking Lock. Drew Lock couldn't even beat Teddy 2 yards last year.
He may not even start. I mean, they may go with Geno Smith. These guys,
they might go with
they're
Jimmy
so
Garoppolo.
bad at quarterback, it makes you think they're tanking. Only thing that makes you not think they're tanking is that they have the oldest coach in the league, but he might still feel like he's got job security and time. So I think they're tanking.
Stinky.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, let's go offensive line. We know who the Niners offensive linemen are. Here is the Seahawks offensive line, starting at left tackle, going left to right. Charles Cross, never heard of him. Damian Lewis,
Rookie.
I've heard of him. Austin Blythe, center. Gabe Jackson, right guard, good player.
Solid player.
Right tackle, Jake Curhan, never heard of him. Who are you taking?
Are they running with a lot of younger players on that? Other than Gabe Jackson, Gabe Jackson's their oldest player.
Yeah,
They
it
run
seems like
with a
their
lot of
interior,
young
their
players.
offensive line is solid, and the offensive tackles are two people I've never, ever heard of.
I think that's a wash. You know what? I think I'll give it to the Niners just based on Trent Williams being the all-pro caliber player, arguably best offensive tackle in the league. Because the rest at this point, you know, if you really want to keep it real, the 49ers' other 4 offensive lineman players are kind of mysteries as well. And you have Jackson, who's solid, but he's a guard. You know, we'll take the player who was the more all-pro at the better impact position. So I think I'll give the very slight edge to the 49ers in that sense.
Agree. Okay, let's go to skill position players. Boom, hold on. All right, we got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker, and Noah Fant. 2 tailbacks. That's how we're going to do it with them. Those are their 5. I'll go with their 5 best. With the Niners, you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Elijah Mitchell. Who are you giving it to?
Yeah, I hate to, because I really love Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, but I think I'm going to give the slight edge again, only slight, because they're just one player away, in my opinion. The Seahawks just one player away from switching that up. If Rashad Penny wasn't injured, if Chris Carson was more healthy like he was 2 to 3 years ago, because Chris Carson was always a vastly underrated running back, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would have gone with the Seahawks. But Deebo Samuel, to me, number 2 overall weapon, best player. Second wide receiver after DK, in my opinion. But Tyler Lockett after that, Tyler Lockett's sweet.
He's
He's
good.
phenomenal. But Elijah Mitchell I love too. The Seahawks don't really have a running back right now. They have guys who get hurt a lot and just inconsistent runners.
They did draft Kenneth Walker III. Yeah, I guess I'll give the Niners a slight edge here, but it's so close, man. It's so close because DK and Lockett are one of the best 1-2 punches. And then Noah Fant,
that's my favorite duo. I
he's
like
not
that
as good as Kittle, but he's on the way up. And I'd like to see – I mean, they don't have a quarterback. But he's on the way up. I think Kittle's on the slight down trajectory. It's really close, man. And if Kenneth Walker is good, they could overtake him. But we haven't seen anything from Kenneth Walker yet.
Sure,
so I'm with you on that. I think the Niners get that one too. Okay, so 2 out of the 3 go to the Niners on offense. Let's go defense. D-line. The Seahawks have Shelby Harris at D-end, Al Woods at nose tackle, Poona Ford at D-tackle, and Darrell Taylor at Leo. Oh, my God. They also have Uchenna Nwosu at strong side linebacker.
That's
but
probably their best one.
He is a pass rusher.
He's a pass rusher.
He is a pass rusher. So I'll put him on the D-line too. Man, that's pathetic. It's freaking pathetic. What the hell happened to this team? I think it's an easy call for the Niners on that.
That's an easy call. Do we have to list the Niners players already? No, dude.
Nothing to talk about there. 3-1 Niners. All right, linebackers. Jordan Brooks. Cody Barton is replacing Bobby Wagner. And Nwosu, we're calling him a pass rusher. So Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton or Fred Warner and Azeez Al-Shaair.
They have freaking Tanner Muse on their defense. Tanner Muse, the guy who couldn't play anything. What the?
Yeah.
Dude, we just talked about the Niners have one of the best linebacking cores in the league. These guys can't hold a candlelight to them. They're probably like, we're talking about top 5 from last week. These guys might be bottom 5, the Seahawks linebacking core.
Yeah, I'm with you again. That's 4-1 Niners. Now let's go DBs.
Seahawks
What they got in Seattle is Artie Burns at corner, also Sidney Jones, Justin Coleman is their nickel, and their safeties are Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs.
Quandre Diggs, stud.
Ooh.
Jamal Adams.
He's a good pass rusher, but he's not. He's really.
If we had put him in the linebacker position, we would have been like, yeah, the Seahawks might be a better linebacker group. But is
true.
it true safety? No.
They drafted Kobe Bryant. I don't like their corners, man. I mean, Justin Coleman's good, but Sidney Jones and Artie Burns?
No. Artie Burns, I think, was a wash-up from the Steelers, maybe, I think.
Right. I mean, like, I think Ward is better. Travarius Ward's better than Burns. I think Emmanuel Mosley's better than Sidney Jones. Quandre Diggs.
The nickel nod.
Diggs and Jimmy Ward, that's pretty close. Jamal Adams is better than Talanoa Hufanga. Justin Coleman is better. Yeah, man, I might want to give this to Seattle because the Niners have, I don't know who their nickelback is, and strong safety is a question mark. I don't know. It's a tough one.
That feels like a wash. I think since we've been going the whole time, I think you just flip a coin.
I'm gonna give them a courtesy. I'm gonna give them a courtesy position group because they already lost. Let's go to special teams real quick. They got Michael Dixon, Jason Myers, and their punt returner is Freddie Swain and DJ Dallas. Oh, they don't got Ray Ray.
Sometimes they throw Tyler Lockett out there.
They don't got no Ray Ray. Jason Myers is not great, right? Michael Dixon is a very good punter. I don't know.
Probably Seattle.
I
think at this point, I can go with Seattle because, I mean, how much?
They already lost.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Cardinals. Niners versus Cardinals. All right, starting on offense.
Cardinals.
It's got to be Cardinals. And now the Niners could overtake them, but the thing about it is Kyler Murray's a hell of a player. He gets hurt. Cool. But, I got to give this one to the Cardinals off top.
Sorry, Trey.
Kyler's really good.
Kyler's still pretty damn good.
He's still pretty damn good when healthy. All right. Offensive line. Here's what the Cardinals are working with. DJ Humphries, Justin Pugh, Rodney Hudson, Will Hernandez, Kelvin Beachum. To me, that's a damn good offensive line.
Win.
I think that's another win for Arizona.
Another win.
They have the best offensive line in the division. They're the only team in the division with a good offensive line.
Yeah. And they have the quarterback. They have the best quarterback equipped to get away from a bad offensive line too.
Now this is a tough one. I'm gonna put DeAndre Hopkins in here, but he is suspended for how long? 10 games? 8 games?
6 games, I think.
Okay.
No more than 6.
But he's in there. And if they make the playoffs, he'll be playing theoretically. So we got DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, AJ Green, Zach Ertz, James Conner. That's not bad, but their running backs suck. No offense.
James Conner was a touchdown machine last year.
He was. He actually was decent last year, but I mean, their running game just in general sucks. But they also have Darrell Williams, Eno Benjamin. It's actually pretty freaking good. When they get Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins on the field together, they could be really dangerous. Really dangerous. What do you think?
Might give it to the slight edge, Cardinals.
Woo!
See, that's the difference between the two teams. You got one team who's a little more talented on the skill player position with the.
I think it's the Niners, though. I mean, hold on. Let me make an argument for the Niners. Zach Ertz is beyond washed. Beyond washed. Yes. He's terrible. He's like the king of the 6-yard catch.
I don't know about terrible.
He can't block, and he's really slow at this point. The Niners got better running back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to the Niners. We don't have to agree though, but I'm gonna give it to the Niners. Slight. It's very close.
You're talking about wash. I think DeAndre Hopkins is more on the wash side too now. The guy is not.
That's fair to say.
He gets hurt a lot now, and he's just like he hasn't been good for 2-3 years, in my opinion.
He might have hit it last year. I mean, he might be on. I think he actually is on the downslope. So that's.
I think last year was like the official heavy domino push he made towards. He's definitely on the downward slope.
All right, I'm going to give that one to the Niners. 2-1 Arizona heading into defense. D-line, J.J. Watt, Leaky Fotu, Zach Allen, Marcus Golden, Devon Kennard. So really, when they're in, their nickel and they're rushing the quarterback, they got J.J. Watt, Marcus Golden, Devon Kennard out there. They lost Chandler Jones. This is the
okay. What J.J. Watt versus Nick Bosa?
Yeah, I mean.
J.J. Watt's good still, but I mean, come on, dude. The guy freaking gets an injury every time he breathes. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have
not
Eric
injured.
Armstead at this point. Armstead's younger, more upside, more durable.
And if Armstead's actually just strictly inside, then great.
Yeah.
Now you have a more dominant pass rusher.
And like the edge rush, Marcus Golden, Devon Kennard versus Nick Bosa and whoever.
Drake Jackson,
Samson Ebukam, whoever. I mean, like Kamoko Toure. Yeah, I would take the Niners.
I think I'm taking the Niners because their top end's better.
I'm taking the Niners too. And they have depth. Linebacker. Cardinals have Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins. Two highly drafted players, two good athletes. The Niners have Fred Warner and Azeez Al-Shaair. I'm taking those two.
I'm taking the freaking Niners.
I'm taking the freaking Niners linebackers. They've just
Isaiah. We're talking about earlier about players not living up to their draft status. I mean, Isaiah was still in that same round as Kinlaw, and even he hasn't been great.
All right, let's get to the DBs. The Niners are up 3-2. DBs for Arizona, we got Marco Wilson at corner. Never heard of Marco Wilson.
Byron Murphy.
Now, they did sign a corner who died this offseason. I forget his name, right? What's his, he was the first-round pick from Minnesota. They signed him. He died. Forget his name. Tragic. But maybe that was who they had.
Used to play. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I forget his name. Anyway, Antonio Hamilton at right cornerback. Wow, man, those are their corners.
Byron Murphy
strong
corner.
Their safeties are Budda Baker, elite, Jalen Thompson, decent, and their nickel is Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy's a good player. Never heard of the other corners. Wow, man. To me, he starts, right? I don't know why they call him a nickel. He starts.
I don't think he plays nickel. Maybe he does both.
Yeah, maybe he does both.
I remember I actually studied him in college. I loved him when he came out.
Yeah, he's good. Washington. Man, I think I got to the Niners.
Byron stud. But after that,
they got two studs in their secondary. The Niners
had Jimmy Ward, who's a stud. Charvarius Ward, who's an outside stud. Emmanuel Mosley is an outside stud.
Yeah. I might have to give this one to the Niners. I wasn't expecting Carolina to have such unknown corners. What are they doing?
I think, dude, getting corners is hard, man.
It is hard. It's a premium position. I mean, they have all these wide receivers. Okay, I'm giving that 4-2 Niners. Wow. I thought Arizona might have them on that. And then finally on special teams, they got Andy Lee. Still better. Still a baller.
Matt Prater.
Matt Prater. I don't know.
Matt Prater be shanking kicks, man. I mean, I know the Niners were abysmal in like coverage and all that stuff, but in terms of like scoring and stuff like that, I might take the Niners.
All right, fair enough. Let's see if there's any comments before we move on. I don't think there are. Actually, there is. Gladney was Gladney. Baker just got traded.
Jeff Gladney.
Chat. I know we got you. We talked about it for about 10 minutes.
RIP.
All right, let's do the last one. The team the Niners love to hate. The Rams.
Starting
on offense.
Rams.
Okay. Quarterback.
Rams quarterback.
Yeah. 1-0. Matthew.
You need to explain any of that? No, I don't think we do.
Super Bowl winner, probably going to go in the Hall of Fame because of that. Okay, let's go. Offensive line. Left tackle. They lost their guy.
Andrew Whitworth.
They replaced him with Joe Noteboom, who is actually pretty good. I think he's a better player than Mike McGlinchey. He's their left tackle. He's not exactly Trent Williams. Left guard, David Edwards. Center, Brian Allen. Right guard, Logan Bruss. Right tackle, Rob Havenstein, who is good.
Who
Havenstein?
are these people? I can't. Look, I know I'm not the most savvy offensive lineman. I don't wonder even some offensive linemen even know. They got a lot of. They too have a few like kind of young players. You see a lot of year 3s, year 4s, and stuff like that.
Logan Bruss is a guy they drafted last year, I want to say.
Dude, I think I'm gonna have to.
No, this year. So he was a 3rd-round rookie. So Logan Bruss is starting. He's a 3rd-round rookie they drafted this year. That's a little scary. But the reason I want to give a slight edge to the Rams here is they actually have a center they trust in Brian Allen. He's been their starting center the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's something the Niners do. I mean, the Niners don't have a center they trust. They were begging Alex Mack not to retire. That was their plan A for center. Didn't work. And now they're like, we really like Jake Brendel. So to me, I got to give this one a slight edge.
Okay, I'll give that to you right now. But I think if McGlinchey, I think the 49ers will have a better likelihood of actually ending up being the team with the better offensive line.
Could be. But right now, the Niners have two totally unproven players. Two totally unproven players. All right. let's do skill position players. For the Rams, we got Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers.
Darrell Henderson Jr.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty freaking good. Allen Robinson, though, is another guy. I wonder, is he washed?
I think he's washed.
He should be good. I think he's washed.
I loved watching. I was always so curious and seeing how Justin Fields did last season. I would watch games. I'm just like, what's this guy do? Like, Allen Robinson looks like he struggled like just doing simple like comeback routes to the sideline, stuff like that a little bit. I know Fields was kind of off of some throws, but it was like, man, this doesn't look like the same guy. He's the one I would X out. Tyler Higbee, just a guy, that tight end.
I like Higbee.
Running backs are sweet.
Yeah, the running backs are sweet. I'm going to give this to the Niners. How about you?
If Robinson was even close to Robinson of old, then they would have it.
Yeah. If they had I agree.
I think if they had Robert Woods still, they'd still have it. Before torn ACL, though.
I agree.
You don't know how he's going to come back from that.
Yeah.
I think that would have been the edge.
2-1 Rams. Defense. D-line. Ashawn Robinson, Greg Gaines, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd. Oof. Now, they lost Von Miller.
Lost Von Miller, but he was only there for like half a year. So they're pretty much, their front has been like the same as it's been for a few years now, for the most part.
Man, I got to give this to the Rams. You have Aaron Donald. I'm sorry. They have Aaron Donald. I know the Niners have Bosa, but I'll take Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd over Bosa and Armstead.
They got a lot of mid-level good, decent players who can contribute.
Yeah. I'm going Rams here. What are you doing?
Yeah, I had to give Rams to Aaron Donald factor just for that case. I mean,
even without Von Miller, because it's like the Niners don't have a Von Miller either. They don't have that dominant bookend outside Bosa, unless Drake Jackson becomes that, and he's not.
Unless Drake Jackson become that, and then you have a case to make for sure.
All right, Rams at linebacker have Bobby Wagner and Ernest Jones. Niners have Fred Warner and Azeez Al-Shaair.
49ers still.
I agree.
Wagner and downward slope.
Wagner's a good player, but
who the hell's the other guy?
Yeah, who's the hell is here
knocking on the door? All-pro player. You want to take it a step further? Dre Greenlaw, still a solid player.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't even talk about Dre Greenlaw, but yeah, he's a good player too. The Niners really might have.
We're not talking about the three because usually teams only run with two linebackers because they're mostly in the nickel set. But still, the fact that the Niners have that versatility or that flexibility, I should say.
True.
Extra star.
True. All right. DBs. The Rams have David Long Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Troy Hill, Jordan Fuller, Nick Scott.
Taylor Rapp.
Yeah, you're right. Taylor Rapp.
All-pro corner, stud.
Yeah.
Then after that, the next best player would probably be between the two, Jimmy Ward. Because they lost their young, good corner who they have had the last few years. He signed elsewhere. Forgot his name.
David Long is good, though. Troy Hill is good, though.
Yeah, Jordan you might have to give the edge to the Rams on this one.
Yeah, because they have Jalen Ramsey.
And just again, you have two huge holes, two question marks at strong safety and nickel, which I argue are the 49ers is top 3 position on in the defensive back position.
Yeah. Then at special teams, you got Riley Dixon as the punter and Matt Gay as the place kicker and Brandon Powell as the returner. I'll give the Niners the nod on special teams. But the Rams got them 4-3 on we both have them.
Which makes sense because they were pretty much, look, they evened out. They've been having some battles. The Niners have mostly been blowing them out the water, but the NFC title game, that one went down to the wire. That was crazy.
That's true.
So, yeah,
and did have it very close at D-line, O-line, and skill positions. On those three, they could have gone either way. We gave them to the Rams all 3 times.
Carmine?
I think it's fair.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Hell no, Rams take wide receiver. We were doing skill positions in general. We'll see. Kittle is better than Higbee, but Kittle misses time. We'll see.
Kittle better than
I haven't been super impressed with Cam Akers last year, but he was coming off an Achilles tear. Let's see what he does this year.
Yeah, give him a short time. I was super impressed with Darrell Henderson, though. He was very solid.
Yeah, I like him. He wasn't healthy down the stretch, right?
Yeah, he ended up getting banged up.
Yeah. Because they couldn't run the ball at all in the Super Bowl. No. They averaged like 1 yard a carry or something crazy.
No, they couldn't. They don't have the offensive line built for that. They just like going this little here, just stretch
True.
it. Here you go.
That's a good point. All right, that's our show. If you didn't see us earlier, we talked about Baker Mayfield getting traded to Carolina. Quick recap: that means Carolina ain't trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, and that if anyone trades for him is probably Cleveland. But if all Cleveland got for Baker was a conditional 5th 2 years from now, the Niners probably would get a conditional 7th 8 years from now from Jimmy Garoppolo, which means just cut him. That's what we basically said.
Just cut it. Stop worrying about draft picks. Who cares? It's not adequate draft pick either.
Yeah, who cares about that conditional 8th rounder in 2097?
Just Niners just need to do what we're going to do right now on this stream and just say deuces. Call it a day. It's done.
Deuces. See you next time.